This boy right here is about to go from someone who could never win a fight to being a freaking badass who can destroy an entire city.
He's destroying everything in his path! We gotta get away from him!
That's right. I am indeed talking about Shigeo Kageyama, aka Mob from Mob Psycho 100. He's just a scrawny middle schooler with zero social skills, but he could easily go up against Jin Woo from Solo Leveling. Nah, I'm kidding. I don't want to start this debate here, but yeah, it's still an amazing story, and Mob is simply a legend. I absolutely love this series, and I desperately wanted to cover it on this channel. So, let's do this. The first episode of Mob Psycho 100 kicks off with a small introduction. We learn that there are countless dangerous spirits in this world, and then there are psychics who exorcise these evil spirits. Right away, we see Arataka Reagan, a professional psychic, speaking with his customer, Hanako. You see, Hanako is being haunted by an evil spirit, so she and her boyfriend, Taro, are seeking professional help. Yeah, and they think that Reagan is the right person for that. Anywho, Hanako and Taro lead Reagan to the building where they've seen the spirit. Taro thinks Reagan is a fraud, which, well, he absolutely is. I mean, no real psychic would throw raw salt at a spirit. But hey, Reagan does have an ace up his sleeve, and that is his student, Shigeo Kageyama, better known by his nickname, Mob. Reagan calls Mob for help, and this scrawny kid exercises the spirit like he's squashing an insect. Seriously, never mess with a nerd with an awful haircut. You never know what they're hiding. We now go back to Reagan's Spirit Consultancy Center, where Reagan pays Mob his half of the money. Mob is confused. The spirit he killed was really weak, so why couldn't his master kill it? Reagan cooks up a lie that he didn't use his powers because it could have killed everyone around him, including the customers. That's why he called Mob, so the boy could handle the spirit while also learning to control his powers. What a load of bull! But guess what? Mob believes all of it. Poor kid. Mob then walks out and thinks about what Reagan said, especially about the promise he made to Reagan that he would never ever use his powers on other people. Oh, and a little bit of context on how Mob's psychic powers work. See, he is incredibly strong, but he generally keeps his powers in check. His psychic powers keep leaking despite all that effort, and when his power meter reaches 100, then he becomes a monster who destroys absolutely everything in his path. Moving on, Mob reaches home and has dinner with his family. There, we meet his father, who is simply called Mr. Kageyama in the show. And of course, there's Mrs. Kageyama as well. They also meet Mob's brother, Ritsu. Yeah, the brother has an actual name, unlike his parents. The next morning, we go to Salt Middle School in Seasoning City. This show's just goofy like that, don't ask. Mob is walking toward the school and gets all shy when he sees his crush, Tsubomi Takane. Aww, cute! Over the course of the day, we see how bad Mob is at both school and sports. But he then gets a call from Reagan for another spirit hunt at Honaido Tunnel. Both Mob and Reagan move ahead to exorcise all the evil spirits. While Mob handles the weak spirits, his master runs into the spirit boss. Of course, Reagan can't do jack about it, but Mob shrinks the spirit boss to the size of a balloon. balloon. The spirit boss then tells them that there's another, more powerful spirit deep into the tunnel. And sure, the spirit was strong, but not by mob standards. Our boy shreds the spirit to pieces like it's just another Tuesday. The second episode picks up at the Spirit Consultancy Center, where Reagan is speaking to a potential customer. After Reagan gives this customer the massage of his lifetime, he has a serious conversation with Mob. Mob asks if he should do something better than working for Reagan. Yes, Mob, you should. But Reagan tells him to keep doing exactly what he's doing right now. Now, we are back at Salt Middle School, where we meet the members of the Telepathy Club. Tomei is the club's leader, and then there's Kibibayashi, Mameta, and Saruta as the members. The club has just lost one member, and there must be at least 5 members in the club to keep it running. Hikaru, the vice president of the student council, also informs them that they should find a 5th member or else the club will be terminated. The next day, the Telepathy Club does everything in its power to get a 5th member, but nobody, and I mean nobody, agrees to join because they have better things to do in life. Of course, there's one guy who is in desperate need of friends, Mob. Mameta brings in Mob and tells everyone that this boy was famous in elementary school because he has some sort of supernatural powers. Well, you are not wrong, my friend. Anywho, Tomei doesn't believe in the supernatural power stuff because, you know, who would? But still, she wants Mob to join the club. Mob then informs Reagan that he'll be late since he has to join this club. Reagan hates the idea of sharing Mob, so he tries talking him out of it, and after a lot of arguing, Mob puts the idea on hold. The next day, Mob and Reagan dress up as girls to conduct an undercover exorcism mission at St. Haiso Girls Academy. While Reagan distracts the guards, Mob enters the school and meets Mari and Chihiro, the clients who called for them. The girl tells Mob that a lot of their stuff has been disappearing from school, and they recently saw a bra floating in the air.
Apparently a bra started floating around in the locker room.
Okay, this spirit is clearly a pervert. Mob then follows the spirit and traps it inside the basketball court. Mob saves the girls and exorcises the spirits, which, well, impresses every girl at the scene. Man, maybe I should get some psychic powers. Anyway, before fading away, the spirit tells Mob that they are both similar. Like Mob, he was shy around girls, but he started to enjoy his life after becoming a spirit. This makes Mob rethink his life choices, and since he doesn't want to end up a ghostly perv, he decides to join the Telepathy Club after all. But before he signs the admission form, Hikaru arrives with the Body Improvement Club to show them their new room. Hikaru asks Mob if the boy really wants to join the Telepathy Club. Mob thinks hard and remembers he wants to confess his feelings to Tsubomi. He knows that girls like boys who are physically strong, so he joins the Body Improvement Club instead. Good for him! The third episode begins with our awkward psychic training hard with the Body Improvement Club. But guess what? Mob is a kick-ass psychic, but man, when it comes to physicality, he's just miserable. The muscle-building guys let the Telepathy Club keep their room because they're just good dudes, and Tomei asks why Mob didn't choose their club. Mob explains that he wants to be physically strong. Then he shows off his psychic abilities to Tomei and her friends. This, of course, gets Tomei all excited about using Mob to contact aliens. That's not how psychic powers work, Tomei. Anywho, while walking home, Mob gets approached by a strange lady who takes him to a religious gathering. The lady promises that her group will help get Mob what he wants, which for Mob is being with Tsubomi. This religious group is LOL, and their leader is Sir Dimple. The lady says that Dimple can make everyone smile with his magical abilities, and almost every member of this group is wearing a creepy mask. Not a good sign, to be honest. But Mob plays along and gets pushed over to the stage, where he meets his classmate Mezato and a random man who are both also new to this gathering. Yeah, you're not the only one who's getting scammed, Mob. Sir Dimple now arrives on stage, and he takes off his mask. All the followers do the same, and as promised, every one of these weirdos are smiling for no reason. Mob clearly doesn't know what the hell is happening. Misato, on the other hand, reveals that she is from the newspaper club and wants to expose Dimple for being a fraud. But right then, Dimple forces that random unhappy man to put on the smiley mask. And surprise, surprise, the man starts laughing. After that, they put a mask on Misato, and as expected, she starts smiling, even though she absolutely hates it. But hey, this dirty trick doesn't work on Mob, which obviously hurts Dimple's ego. He then makes Mob play a milk drinking contest. The rules are simple. Whoever laughs first loses. Mob doesn't like to lose, but Dimple tricks him by mixing something into the milk, which makes our boy really furious. Mob uses his powers to remove Dimple's smiling magic from his followers. This leads to a confrontation between Mob and Dimple, and after being poked for no good reason, Mob unleashes 100% of his psychic powers.
That emotion is rage.
Damn! This innocent boy is truly a monster. Of course, this Dimple person, who, by the way, is actually an evil spirit, stands no chance against Mob, so he loses miserably. All LOL members are released from Dimple's hypnosis, and they wonder if Mob is actually a messenger of God. Yeah, no matter what, these people will always stay fools. The next morning, Mob sees a weakened Dimple, who is shrunk to the size of a soap bubble. That's right, Dimple has now become simple. No? Man, tough crowd. Anyway, it's clear that Mob failed to send Dimple to the afterlife. The fourth episode kicks off with a brawl between a few school students. Tenga Onigawara, the leader of the group from Salt Middle School, beats up Tsuyoshi and his boys from Black Vinegar Middle School. Wait, Salt and Vinegar? Really? Anyway, the students from Black Vinegar School call Teruki, who, well, beats the crap out of Onigawara and his gang. Now, we move on to Mob, who is shocked to see Dimple in this miniature form. At first, Mob thinks that he should exorcise Dimple, but the evil spirit promises not to harm anyone. So, Mob lets him live. Not only that, but he also lets Dimple follow him everywhere. I imagine this decision will bite Mob in the ass later on. But anyway, Dimple then meets Mob's fraud master, Reagan. He instantly realizes Reagan isn't psychic. I mean, Reagan couldn't even see Dimple, but for some reason, Dimple decides not to reveal the truth about Reagan to Mob. Next, we see Misato meeting with Mob's brother, Ritsu. Guess what? All those weird LOL members started a new cult, Psycho Helmet, and they want Mob to be their leader. Misato wants to learn more about Mob's powers, but Ritsu refuses to reveal anything about his brother. Moving on, Onigawara meets Musashi Goda, the leader of the Body Improvement Club. He wants all these muscular guys to beat up the gang from Black Vinegar School. Of course, Goda is buff for pure reasons and refuses to be part of this nonsense. So, Onigawara decides to trick Mob instead, knowing the Body Improvement Club will act if one of their own is in danger. He writes a fake love letter to Mob, which makes the boy believe someone is waiting for him outside. At the same time, Onigawara also writes a challenging message to Tsuyoshi, leading both him and Mob to the same place. Tsuyoshi sees Mob and captures him. Big mistake, my friend. Big mistake. Mob can clearly beat them all, but he doesn't want to use his powers on people. The Body Improvement Club also learns that Mob is in trouble, so they decide to fight fight for their friend. Goda and his friends are clearly strong, and they beat up several students from Black Vinegar, but everything goes to hell when Tsuyoshi calls Teru, who uses his powers against Goda and the gang. But Teru gets shocked to see one guy unfazed by his powers. Yep, that's Mob. Teru learns that Mob is a psychic like him, which clearly shocks him.
What's with this guy? His presence barely registers, so I didn't even notice him.
Damn, a psychic against a psychic? It's about damn time! The 5th episode continues the confrontation between Mob and Teru. Teru tries several attacks on Mob, but they don't do any good. Mob blocks every attack, and he doesn't care about fighting. Dimple tries to provoke Mob, but the boy doesn't want to hurt a person with his powers, no matter what. Good for you, Mob. Mob even stops blocking attacks at one point and takes a hell of a beating. Dimple feels bad for his companion and asks Teru to stop. The evil spirit even returns to his original form to fight this guy on Mob's behalf. Oh, well, I guess I should stop calling Dimple evil at this point. Anywho, Dimple has lost most of his powers after fighting Mob, so he doesn't stand a chance against Teru. Teru proves that by exercising Dimple with a single hit. Oh, you shouldn't have done that, ya asshole. Mob's a little pissed now. But even after all this, Mob refuses to use his powers and takes all the beating like a man. At one point, Teru even attacks Mob with knives to make him fight. But this strategy doesn't end well for him. Mob tries to block the knives, which deflects one knife towards Teru. No. It doesn't kill him or anything like that. Instead, this knife flies over Teru's head and, well, it shaves the top of his head. Man, your own attack did that. That's insulting on another level. Of course, Teru is furious because, you know, he doesn't like being bald. He again attacks Mob and tries to choke him to death. For a brief moment, we see a small flashback where some jerks are beating Ritsu. Mob raises his hand to save his brother, and the next moment, we see all those kids and Ritsu badly injured. No wonder Mob is afraid to use his powers. Back in the present, Mob refuses to fight back and ends up falling unconscious. Teru is scared, thinking Mob has died. Yeah, you wish. Right then, the dark and godly power inside of Mob takes control. The boy is still unconscious, but his power has taken the front seat. And no, this isn't Mob's 100% power. It's his infinite psychic power. Mob unleashes just a little bit of this power and shreds Teru's clothes into pieces. Yeah, this guy just got naked in the middle of the fight. Mob even absorbs Teru's powers and all the atmospheric energy around him. His infinite power makes Teru and an entire building fly into the air. Teru begs Mob to let him live and promises not to harm anyone with his power again. Fortunately, Mob wakes up at just the right time, and yeah, Teru survives the entire experience. Mob then returns home and apologizes to his brother for the time that he hurt him. Ritsu says that Mob didn't hurt him. It was all those high school jerks who pushed him to the ground. In his room, Ritsu watches the news about a school building flying into the air. He then remembers that old fight, and yeah, it was indeed Mob's infinite form that hurt all of those guys and Ritsu. In the 6th episode, Onigawara meets Mob on the school premises and apologizes for tricking him with that love letter. Ritsu watches Onigawara and his gang talking to Mob, and he thinks that they're bullying his brother. Later, at the school council meeting, Ritsu suggests issuing warnings to the delinquents to make the campus a more peaceful place. The club's president instantly agrees. Later, Ritsu is approached by Kenji Mitsura. He is the owner of the Awakening Lab, who conducts research on psychics to decode the formula and try to become a psychic himself. He mistakes Ritsu for Mob and gives him a business card. Ritsu clearly doesn't clarify that he's Mob. Instead, he goes to Kenji's lab and meets 5 more psychics. Meanwhile, Shinji, the student council president at Salt Middle School, makes a plan against Onigawara because, well, he is the biggest delinquent in the school. Shinji frames Onigawara for breaking his classmates' recorders by placing the broken pieces on his desk. Evil! But smart. Onigawara tries to deny the accusations, but he can't prove any of it. I mean, yeah, he is a jerk, but he doesn't deserve that. Later at the Awakening Lab, Ritsu tries to bend the spoon to see if he has any psychic powers, but the spoon stays good as new. He's frustrated that he isn't a psychic like his brother, so he walks out feeling nothing but shame. Aww, don't feel bad, kid. You'll get there. While walking home, Ritsu is approached by Reagan, who wants Ritsu to exorcise spirits for him. You already have Mob, and now you want his brother as well? Man, talk about being greedy. Meanwhile, Kenji sees the spoon Ritsu was trying to bend at the lab, which, wait for it, is twisted like it went through some kind of torture. This means Ritsu does have psychic powers, he just isn't aware of them, and we get it extra confirmed because he can now see Dimple. In the 7th episode, the rumor of Teru's defeat spreads quickly. Nobody knows who actually defeated Teru, so they named him White Tea Poison. Now, every strong gang leader wants to defeat White Tea Poison to become the next big shot. Yeah, good luck fighting Mob, guys. Meanwhile, Dimple tells Ritsu how he survived Teru's attack and basically just kind of resurrected himself. Ritsu is still figuring out exactly what this green-colored thingy is, so he starts smashing him. Dimple then calls himself Mob's mentor to manipulate Ritsu. He says he can help Ritsu improve his psychic abilities, and Dimple sort of does that by helping him bend several spoons. Back at the Salt Middle School, Ritsu and Shinji continue to frame the rowdy students. The school soon becomes a peaceful haven at the cost of expelling innocent kids. Dimple continues to help Ritsu grow his newfound power. One day, several delinquents confront Ritsu on the street. Dimple takes over Ritsu's body, allowing him to fight them and feel satisfied with his abilities. Teru arrives. Hold on a dang second. Teru, what kind of wig is that? Dimple wants Ritsu to run, but the boy thinks that he is all set to take on big fights now. Wrong decision, buddy. Wrong decision. Teru doesn't waste much effort to show this boy his place.
Now's your chance! Run for it!
Thank the wind, Ritsu. It just saved yo ass. The school gang leaders are looking for the White Tea Poison, so they come after Ritsu and Shinji. Ritsu beats some of them, and Shinji gets beaten by some others. One day, Ritsu gets surrounded by several people who think that he is the White Tea Poison. Teru is watching everything, and now he knows that Ritsu is pretending to be Mob. A mysterious man from the terraces also watches the fight to see how interesting it becomes. When Ritsu kicks everyone's ass, Mob comes and asks him what he's up to. The 8th episode kicks off with Mob and Ritsu's confrontation. Mob learns that Ritsu now has psychic powers, which surely isn't a bad thing. So, Mob seems happy about it. But Ritsu is hellbound on fighting Mob, which even scares Dimple off. So, he leaves Ritsu's body and floats away from the scene. Ritsu tries to provoke Mob by insulting him. He even says that he never actually cared about Mob. Dang, that's harsh, Ritsu. But Mob doesn't care one bit. Instead, he apologizes to all the people that Ritsu hurt. At this point, we learn that the mysterious hooded man watching all of this is actually Megumu Koyama, and he's taking orders from Yusuke Sakurai. Both Koyama and Yusuke are members of a psychic group called Claw, which is some sort of terrorist organization that recruits psychics. Like everyone else out there, they want to capture Mob, but there's one teeny tiny problem. They're mistaking Ritsu for Mob. Yusuke even breaks into the Awakening lab and beats the hell out of Kenji and the other psychics. Megumu now makes his move and goes after Ritsu. Of course, this guy is strong, so he beats Ritsu in an instant. But hey, we all know Mob won't let him leave with Ritsu without a fight. At first, Mob tries to fight off Megumu without using his full power, but that won't work against this enemy. Megumu not only breaks through Mob's barrier and beats the crap out of him, but he also punches Ritsu right in front of Mob. Well, you done did it. You forced Mob to unleash 100% of his power. Mob is a different beast at 100%, and the boy humbles Megumu rather quickly by, beating him from left, right, and center. However, Megumu isn't some amateur child. He's an experienced psychic who must be doing this sort of thing for years. So he gets close to Mob and sprays something on his face that knocks the boy out cold. Megumu then runs away, and yeah, he takes Ritsu with him. Mob now wakes up and sees Dimple and Teru. Teru tells Mob that the terrorist group Claw has learned how to create psychic powers in a lab. But of course, the artificial psychic powers can only get them so far. So they want to recruit every natural psychic in the world. Mob learns from Dimple that Ritsu visited the Awakening lab, so the gang decides to meet with Kenji. Kenji tells Mob that Ritsu visited the lab under his brother's name, and that's exactly why Claw was after him and not the real Mob. The 9th episode takes us to Claw's 7th Division building, where Yusuke learns from Megumu that there's another psychic kid who's far stronger than Ritsu. Terada, another member of the organization, overhears the conversation and decides to go after the real Mob. Terada finds Mob, but as expected, he couldn't do any damage to the boy, let alone capture him. Teruki basically humiliates Terada and forces him to reveal the location of Ritsu and other captured psychics. Meanwhile, senior members of the 7th Division have a meeting where they learn that their powerful leader is returning soon. And yeah, every member of the division is pissed at Megumu for getting beaten up by a kid. I mean, walking out alive after fighting Mob is a feat in and of itself, but yeah, these members don't realize this yet. Meanwhile, Muto, another member of the Claw, meets the captured kids. This sadistic asshole drags Kaito, one of the captured psychics, out of the cell and uses hypnosis on the other children. He makes everyone believe that he has killed Kaito. At the same time, Mob and Teru arrive at the scene with a captured Terada. Terada tries to use the element of surprise to escape and then fight against both Teru and Mob. He is able to make Teru worry for a bit, but gets squashed like an insect by Mob. Seriously, what did you think would happen, huh? Back in the dungeon, Kaito's twin brother Daichi senses that his brother is alive, so Ritsu forms an escape plan. He manages to get out of the cell, and Rei, a young psychic from the group, uses his powers to find Kaito. Anyway, Mob and Teru also beat up some of the other guards, and Dimple takes over one of the guards' bodies. Of course, Claw members aren't as stupid as they look. They quickly learn about the intruders, and guess what? Megumu decides to face Mob so that he can kill the boy. You haven't learned your lesson, have you, bud? He acts all strong and furious in front of Mob, but the boy doesn't care about what Megumu wants. He doesn't waste a single second before basically smashing Megumu against the walls. Damn, that's the beating of a lifetime. At this point, other senior members of the 7th Division learn that they are about to face a strong opponent. The 10th episode begins with Ritsu and his group finding Kaito. As they are sneaking out of the room, the bad guys spot them and get ready to fight. But one of the bad guys lets the kids leave since he knows the men don't stand a chance against these kids with psychic powers. Meanwhile, Dimple, Teru, and Mob decide to split up to cover more ground, and Dimple comes across a weird, scary door. He defeats some guards and opens up the door. Turns out, it's something like a lab, where people are put through torture so their psychic power awakens. Even Dimple thinks that that's evil, but right before he can step outside, Matsuo, another one of the senior Claw members, arrives on the scene. At the same time, another powerful Claw member, Miyagawa, appears before Teru. Sure, Miyagawa is strong, but he's still a weakling against Teru. Teru blocks his enemies' fiery attacks by creating a barrier. He then captures Miyagawa in that same barrier, making the overconfident jerk burn himself.
Wow, that's surprising. You can still move around with all those burns?
Jeez, that was a crispy defeat. I'm so sorry. Teru's fight isn't over yet, as Yusuke also appears on the scene. While Teru is distracted, Muraki, yet another strong Claw member, strikes the boy from behind, knocking him unconscious. Over with Mob, the boy gets ready to face Mukai, the Claw member who can use her power to control several wooden puppets. Ritsu isn't having fun either. In fact, things get even more dangerous for him as Sho Suzuki, the son of the Claw's leader, appears right in front of him. Sho is a cute kid, but more than that, he seems incredibly strong. Anyway, we now cut to Mob, who makes Mukai cry by breaking all of her dolls. Mukai brings Tsuchiya, yet another Claw member, to help her defeat Mob. Of course, Mob can easily defeat Tsuchiya, but he refuses to hit a woman. The mere thought of hitting a woman makes Mob cry. Aww. What a gentleman! Anywho, while Mob wipes off his tears and knocks out his enemy, which, by the way, happens off-screen, Dimple goes against Matsuo, who has this unique ability that allows him to keep evil spirits as pets. Dimple tries his best, but the enemy overwhelms him by releasing several pet spirits at once. Now, after Mob defeats yet another Claw member named Takeuchi, he sees Ritsu lying on the floor. Muto then appears from behind and uses hypnosis on the boy, making him see a dead Ritsu. Mob simply loses his mind at this point and knocks out Muto, but that traumatizing emotion makes Mob unconscious. Poor kid! It doesn't end there, as Sho enters the scene and captures both Ritsu and Mob. Now, every good guy on the scene has been captured by Claw. That's not good. The 11th episode starts off by showing Reagan, who tracks down Mob's location using the boy's cell phone. Next, we see Mob having a dream where he gets lost in a forest with Ritsu, but good boy Ritsu uses his science knowledge to find their way out. Mob now wakes up and sees Ritsu and Teru. They are captured in a room where they can't use their powers. At the same time, members of the 7th Division discuss plans for recruiting Mob and the other kids, but Sho reveals that these kids will be sent to the headquarters. Yeah, he knows Mob is too damn strong to serve as a mere soldier at the 7th Division, but no one knows that Sho is their boss's son, so they don't take the boy's words seriously. Anyway, with all this nonsense going on, Reagan arrives at the location, and he gets greeted by several guards. For some reason, all the soldiers mistake Reagan as their boss. Damn, these people are really stupid. Instead of fighting Reagan, these people simply take him to meet Mob and the other kids. Well, yeah, there might be several great warriors out there, but it's fraud Reagan who frees these psychic kids. But walking out of the facility isn't a piece of cake, as they first have to face other senior members of the 7th Division. Matsuo, Yusuke, and Muraki are ready to face the good guys, and this time, Ishiguro, the leader of the 7th Division, is also taking the fight head on. Ishiguro is an incredibly strong psychic who can manipulate gravity around him. And sure, Reigen is a fraud, but he still steps up to save his students. He doesn't want Mob to use his powers against other people, so Reigen decides to defeat the enemy on his own. And, well, he does land a kick on Ishiguro. Not only that, but this fraud also lands a powerful punch on Muraki. That was brave, Reigen. But it was also stupid as hell. Reigen's physical assault makes the enemy furious, and they charge at the kids full throttle. Reigen keeps telling Mob that he doesn't have to use his powers, but the boy sees it as the only option to save his friends. Then, Mob's power counter keeps going up, and right when it reaches 100%, Reigen breaks Mob out of it by slapping him. Now, we see a small flashback when Mob arrives at Reigen's office for the first time. He tells Reigen about his psychic powers and how he doesn't want to hurt other people. Reigen tells the boy to live normally and just become a good person. Now, we are back to the present, where Yusuke slashes Reigen on his back, making Mob's master fall to the floor. Really? Attacking the enemy on his back. Shameful. The final episode of Season 1 surprises us with a rather unique twist. Instead of dying on the spot, Reigen wakes up like nothing had happened to him. In fact, he breaks Yusuke's cursed sword like it's a toy. Mutsuo then releases evil spirits at Reigen, and Muraki uses his clone ability on the man. But hey, Reigen doesn't even get phased. Everyone thinks that Reigen has awakened his psychic powers, but nah, it's Mob's power that are helping Reigen. It turns out that when Mob was about to unleash 100% of his powers and Reigen slapped him, Mob's energy temporarily passed over to Reigen. The mighty leader of the group, Ishiguro, also steps in and gives it his all. But Reigen defeats him quite easily.
When speaking to someone, you should take off your mask. Heads up!
Yeah, that's not something you see every day. Even Reigen knows that somehow Mob's power transferred to him, so he uses every ounce of that energy to save his student. But of course, he doesn't want to kill anyone with his powers. So, after beating the crap out of every Claw member, Reigen decides to give a speech. Reigen explains how every person is equal, and psychic powers don't make anyone superior. Yeah, it's basic stuff, but the way Reigen says it does have some effect on the enemy. He basically breaks the enemy's will to fight, but Ishiguro, who by the way is just some old geezer, isn't impressed. Ishiguro releases his full powers, and at this point, Reigen has used all of Mob's borrowed energy. But out of nowhere, Sho arrives and beats the hell out of Ishiguro. Sho is angry at Mob for, not fighting at all, but he leaves the scene without harming anyone. The remaining members of the 7th Division accept that Mob and his group can actually beat Claw, and all decide to change their ways. Mutsuo even releases Dimple. Remember, Dimple fought against Mutsuo before and lost? Well, Mutsuo captured Dimple like he did with the other evil spirits. Anywho, everyone goes back to their usual lives. Mob and Ritsu are back at school, and it seems like Ritsu has learned a lot. He and Shinji correct their mistake to Onigawara by apologizing for framing him, but Onigawara doesn't care at all. Turns out he has joined the Body Improvement Club so that he can turn around his life for good. Meanwhile, Teru joins hands with Kenji to train every other psychic kid from the Awakening Club. Claw is still out there, so They want to be strong enough to face the enemy. Oh, and also, let's not forget the most important part. Reagan can now see Dimple, and possibly other spirits as well. Yeah, maybe a spark of Mob's power is still inside of him. Seems like a happy ending for the first season, but not quite. Shaw calls his father and tells him that he has dissolved the 7th Division, and well, Shaw's father, or shall I say the leader of Claw itself, is returning to Japan. Episode 1 of Mob Psycho's 2nd season takes us to a random farm where a man asks Reagan to exorcise the spirit that has been destroying his harvest. Mob also arrives on the scene. Wait, has our boy gotten taller? Anywho, the man wasn't lying, as there is an evil spirit on the farm that has been controlling the plants. Mob easily defeats the spirit by taking control of the plants himself. Yeah, that's something Mob can do, apparently. Next, we move on to the 12th meeting of the Psycho Helmet Club, where Meisato and the other members are discussing their plans to find their founder. Yup, it's Mob they're talking about. Meisato clearly knows where Mob is, but she wants Mob to become physically strong and be more charismatic before she brings him over in front of the members. Back at Salt Middle School, Shinji steps down from the position of Student Council President. This means a new election to find the new president, and Meisato convinces Mob to stand in the elections because, well, it's the only way to impress Tsubomi. Oh, and Shinji runs for the position as well, and since Mob is unable to utter a single word on speech day, Shinji becomes president again. Yeah, this whole stunt was completely useless. Or was it? Even after failing at the election, Mob receives a love letter from a girl named Emmy. Emmy confesses that she has feelings for Mob. I see this as some sort of trap though. Don't fall for it, Mob. He's falling for it. Even though Mob sorta turns down Emmy's proposal, he continues to hang out with her for a week. Mob smiles more often. Seems more excited about life. He's starting to fall for this girl. One day, Emmy even tells Mob that she's writing a novel and she lets him read it. But in classic rom-com fashion, it turns out that Emmy only confessed to Mob after losing a bet with her friends. She continues to hang out with Mob, so her friends think he accepted her proposal. In reality, she doesn't even have any feelings for Mob. Mob is crushed after learning this, and Emmy goes back to her friends. And yeah, her friends are total jerks who tear Emmy's novel to pieces. She doesn't find the courage to stand up for herself, but Mob sees all of it while walking back home. He starts to pick up the pieces with Emmy, but all the pieces flow into the air because of the wind. So, Mob uses his powers to gather every piece and make the novel whole again. Oh, and yeah, Tsubomi is watching this from a distance, and well, she seems impressed. The second episode kicks off with Reagan taking Mob to a place that is a hub for urban legends. Well, business is bad nowadays, so that's Reagan's strategy to scam. Help some more people. However, right when he sets up shop on the street, another psychic, Banshomaru Shinra, asks them kindly to get lost from his turf. As they argue, a woman approaches them and asks these psychics to get rid of all the urban legends. Guess what? Both Reagan and Shinra take the job and agree to split the money. Of course, Reagan doesn't want Shinra to get hurt, so he asks Dimple to follow him. Next, Shinra finds the legendary red raincoat. And no, he isn't a spirit or anything like that. He's a pervert who likes flashing kids. That's worse than an evil spirit. Anyway, Red Raincoat tricks Shinra and electrocutes him with a metal rod. But before he could do any more damage, an actual spirit, Kuchisake Onna, simply known as the Dagger, attacks the pervert. Serves you right, asshole. Of course, Shinra tries to fight off the spirit on his own, but he clearly isn't strong enough to beat this one. Dimple is watching this, so he takes over Shinra's body and helps him survive this fight. Dimple sends an SOS message to Reagan, and he and Mob arrive right on time to save Shinra. The dagger escapes before Mob could kill it, and Dimple explains that it was people's imagination and fears that gave birth to the dagger. So, even a psychic who once believed in the dagger's existence won't be able to exorcise her. But hey, Mob isn't someone who cares about urban legends. He knew nothing about the dagger, which makes him immune to her powers. So ultimately, the nerdy psychic exorcises the dagger quite easily. This entire experience gives Reagan the bright idea to start his own website. Yes! He's advancing as a scam artist. In the third episode, we see Reagan's website working really well. He gets a variety of clients from the website, which means more money. First, we see a man who wants to use Reagan's power to curse someone. Of course, Reagan doesn't want to do that. So he fools the man by writing something on a piece of paper. The man leaves and says that if it doesn't work, he will curse Reagan instead. Next, Reagan gets a call from a woman who's being stalked by a spirit. But it turns out it was the neighbor next door who was using an out-of-body technique to spy on the woman. And next, 3 students approach Reagan and ask him to accompany them to a haunted house. Apparently, they want to take a picture at the house, but they need a psychic around, just in case something happens. Well, nothing really happens, and the students leave without paying Reagan any money. The next day, the same students return to Reagan's office and show him the picture they took the other night. A spirit is visible in the picture, so Reagan and Mob return to the haunted house to exorcise the spirit. But right before Mob can use his powers, the 3 spirits reveal themselves. Apparently, it's a family of 3 who want to leave peacefully. Man, that's sad on another level. They promise not to harm any human no matter what happens. The students ask Reagan to exorcise the spirits, but Mob doesn't want to. It's the first time something like this has happened with Mob. The emotional dilemma is making him sweat, and Reagan senses Mob's discomfort. Reagan tells the clients that they've exorcised the spirits and asks Mob to leave. The next day, Mob sits and wonders if he can use his powers to hurt humans and not spirits. And if he does do that, is there someone who can stop him from misusing his powers and hurting someone who doesn't deserve it? Oh, and yes, the man we saw at the beginning of the episode does curse Reagan for fooling him. Turns out, there are indeed psychics out there who lend their powers to let their clients curse anyone. The 4th episode kicks off with Reagan getting a message from an extremely rich man. Reagan goes to the location and sees a lot of other psychics, including Shinra. There, we also meet Kirin Jodo, president of a group called Sun Psychic Alliance. That's not all, as Matsuo from Claw's 7th Division is also there, but as a good guy now. Anywho, Masashi Asagiri, the rich client, arrives on the scene and explains that his daughter Minori has been possessed by an evil spirit. Of course, there are several psychics on the scene, so Reagan had to win the rock, paper, scissors game to be the first one to meet Minori. Minori tries to dismiss the fact that she's possessed, but Reagan confirms that the girl is indeed under an evil spirit's control. And before you know it, the evil spirit reveals itself, and it is confirmed to be Kaiji Mogami, a man who was once a powerful psychic. Then we get a small flashback where we see Kaiji exorcising evil spirits as a profession. However, he was also killing people to earn more money for his sick mother. In the end, Kaiji got power hungry and started to absorb evil spirits so he could become the strongest evil spirit. In fact, he also fought against Dimple once, but our green bubbly friend managed to get away. Anyway, back to the present. Kaiji defeats almost every psychic on the spot, including Jodo. Kaiji possesses Jodo for a bit, but Reigen pushes the spirit out by kicking the old man in the stomach. Kaiji even injures Masashi badly, which pisses off Mob. But this time, Mob is actually fighting someone stronger than he is. At least in his current form. Mob very quickly realizes that he won't win this fight, and if he tries too hard, Kaiji will simply hurt Minori's body. So, Mob decides to use the out-of-body technique from the last episode to get inside Minori's body and fight Kaiji from within. It's a smart move, but Kaiji isn't called the strongest evil spirit for nothing. While Dimple possesses Mob's body to protect it from the outside, Mob goes against Kaiji inside Minori's body. Kaiji then explains that he can bend everything inside the mental world using his negative emotions. He not only steals Mob's powers, but also creates a duplicate life for the boy, where Mob is not some psychic. He's an ordinary student with no powers, friends, or family. Ooh, things just got a whole lot more interesting. The 5th episode continues in the parallel world created by Kaiji. Minori is also a student in Mob's school in this world, and like everyone else, she's a huge bully to him. Mob has no one. Even Ritsu is a stranger to him in this world. Gosh, that is brutal. Mob spends almost 6 months in this hellhole, while in the real world, only 30 minutes have passed. Kaiji has been watching Mob being all helpless and alone in this world, and then he tells his backstory. Apparently, Kaiji lost his mind after his mother's death. He got tired of being used by other people, so he became an evil spirit to punish all of the awful people. Like in the illusion, Minori is a bully in the real world as well, so Kaiji thinks she deserves all of this torture. Back in the real world, Dimple tries to reach Mob by breaking into Minori's mind. At the same time, Kaiji has influenced Mob into using psychic powers for himself and to hurt other people. Mob has spent too much time in the illusion, and he's forgotten everything. Reigen, Dimple, Ritsu, he doesn't remember anyone from the real world. Fortunately though, Matsuo helps Dimple to break through Kaiji's barrier, and right when Mob is about to kill a human in this illusion, Dimple makes the boy remember everything. Ugh. Thank God. Mob being a killer is just too heartbreaking. Anyway, Mob starts fighting Kaiji in the parallel world, inside Minori's mind. Kaiji gives it his all and releases every ounce of power he has, but Mob uses every positive emotion in his heart to defeat Kaiji. But that isn't the end of it. After Kaiji is defeated, every evil spirit he absorbed is released into the world. Mob asks Dimple to leave and promises to return once he exorcises all these spirits. It takes some effort for Mob to get rid of every spirit, but our boy does it. He returns to the real world, and Kaiji leaves Minori's body. But before he can escape, Matsuo captures Kaiji's spirit. In the 6th episode, Mob continues to enjoy his life. He trains hard with the Body Improvement Club, and these guys actually care about the boy. They even celebrate Kijibayashi's birthday and invite Mob to the party. But Mob's happiness is cut short when he gets a call from Reigen, who, predictably, wants Mob to get rid of a spirit. Mob doesn't say no, and he gets rid of the spirit for his mentor. But the boy has had enough, and he stands up against Reigen for not respecting his personal life. Reigen gets harsh and says that Mob's friends are simply using him. He also says that these so-called friends don't actually care about Mob. Sound familiar, Reigen? Anyway, this time, Mob understands what is actually happening. It's Reigen who's using him. So Mob decides to leave Reigen, which honestly he should have done a while back. Anyway, Reigen continues his work without Mob, but it isn't easy. But one fine day, Reigen realizes that it's his birthday, and surprise, surprise, he doesn't get any messages from family or friends. The man has no friends, so he decides to turn his life around for good. Reagan starts to create videos on exorcism to let people know of the latest scams and how to avoid them. Honestly, just avoid reaching out to Reagan. He's the biggest scam artist in town. But guess what? This actually works in Reagan's favor, and he gets popular in the community. He gets a new title, Seasoning City's Brother, because of all the good work that he's doing. Reagan also gets interviewed by a magazine, and one day he gets a call to appear on a TV show. Good for you, Reagan. Good for you. The host of the show greets the guests, which also includes Kirin Jodo. Mojiro says that he has invited a possessed person, and he wants Reagan to exorcise the person on live television. Reagan thinks this is a manufactured opportunity to get famous, but in reality, this is a setup from Jodo. Apparently, Jodo is angry at Reagan for hitting him during that fight against Kaiji. So, the old geezer wants to expose Reagan for being a fraud. The 7th episode takes us back to the television show, where Reagan is asked to save a possessed teenager. Yeah, exorcising spirits is not something you show on TV. But anyway, Reagan can't do a thing against spirits, and this teenage boy wasn't even possessed, just told to act like he was no matter what. It was simply a trap laid by Jodo, and it works quite well. Reagan is exposed as a fraud on live television. The news about Reagan spreads so quickly that some people even form an online group of Reagan's victims. Mob also learns about what happened from a schoolmate, but this stupid kid thinks that all Reagan is doing is trying to get more clients. Reagan is having a tough time, and people are creating even more despicable stories to destroy this man.
They said they needed to undress to perform an exorcism.
Reagan may be a liar, but he clearly never did that. To stop the harassment once and for all, Reagan agrees to hold a press conference. Reagan asks the press to stop reporting false things about him. He says that no one can prove that he doesn't have psychic powers, so they should only stick to facts. Right then, one reporter asks why Reagan started the Spirit Consultancy office. That's when Reagan realizes what it was. Mob and his powers inspired Reagan to do all of this. After leaving his regular job, Reagan was struggling to choose a path, but one day, Mob arrived in his office with his hopeful eyes. So Reagan decided to start the spirit hunting business with the help of this young boy. After all this time, Reagan accepts the fact that he was using Mob for his own benefit. Reagan now looks straight towards the camera and says, "You've grown up." That's clearly directed at Mob, who might be watching the interview as well. Then, out of nowhere, the entire place starts to shake, and everything floats in the air. Everyone thinks Reagan is behind this stunt, and he might be a real psychic. Reagan walks out of the building, and there it is. Mob and Dimple waiting for him a few blocks away. So yeah, it was Mob using his powers to help out Reagan. Reagan asks Mob if the boy knows about his true identity now. Mob says that he already knew that his mentor is a good person. Man, this kid is truly a gem. The 8th episode shows us that the Psycho Helmet cult has become massive. There are thousands of followers, and people have even donated money to buy an entire building for the cult. While people are making him a god, Mob is preparing himself for his school's annual marathon. Meizato reaches out to Mob and asks him to use his powers to win the marathon. Meizato confirms that the cult members saw Mob's back during Reagan's press conference. They didn't see his face, but the members realized that Psycho Helmet was a student from Salt Middle School. Now, these weirdos from the cult will watch the marathon, hoping that their founder will reveal themselves. Meizato wants Mob to use this opportunity, but hey, the boy doesn't like to cheat. Reagan chips in and helps Mob with his training. At the same time, Ritsu completes Mob's household chores so his brother can get proper rest. Of course, Mob can't exorcise spirits for Reagan, so Ritsu brings Teruko to lend a hand to Reagan. But when Ritsu and Teruko Teru are at the spirit agency, Tsubomi and one of her friends, Miki, arrive to get some relationship advice from Reigen. Of course, Tsubomi doesn't know Mob is associated with this sort of stuff, so Ritsu hides. But right then, Tsubomi sees Mob's picture on the board. Tsubomi reveals that his crush is in the same cram school and asks whether she should confess her feelings to the boy. And of course, Reigen says yes. Man, I really hope Tsubomi is talking about Mob. But it turns out, Tsubomi was lying about having a crush. She just wanted to see for herself if Reigen is legit. Sorry, Mob. Finally, the day of the marathon arrives. Mob gives it his all, but he eventually faints in the middle of the race. Ritsu, on the other hand, takes 9th place. Mob gets discharged from the nurse's office and walks home. Meanwhile, Sho, yes, the son of the Claw's leader, arrives at Ritsu's home. When Mob reaches home, he sees the entire house engulfed in flames. At first, Mob walks into his burning house thinking that everything is fine, and his family must have escaped. But then, he sees 3 bodies completely burnt. It's so bloody gruesome that even Dimple asks Mob to look away. Of course, Mob thinks his family is dead and gets so damn angry that he almost loses control over his powers. Holy smokes. Seems like Mob is about to destroy the world. Honestly, I wouldn't blame him if he goes berserk at this point. The 9th episode picks up exactly where the previous one left off. Dimple asks Mob to calm down and says these bodies are just dummies, and his family should still be alive. Dimple suggests that they should look for psychics nearby, and maybe that's how they'll learn what actually happened to Mob's family. Dimple doesn't actually have any idea if this is true, he's just worried about what might happen if Mob lost all control. Mob then uses his power to scan the entire city. Jesus! This guy's power doesn't have no limits! He instantly senses the presence of 2 psychics near his house. Oh, and Teru is also attacked by a Claw member in his apartment. But back to Mob. The boy easily defeats the 2 psychics, but it turns out they didn't set his house on fire or kidnap his family. They were simply tasked with finding Mob. At that moment, Megumi and Yusuke arrive at the scene and take Mob with them. No, they don't work for Claw anymore. They want to help Mob against Claw. They take Mob and Dimple to a secret hideout, where Reigen, the kids from the Awakening Lab, and the former members of Claw's 7th Division are waiting for him. It sort of feels like the Season 1 reunion. Moving on, Reigen tells Mob that his family should be alive. It might be that someone burnt his house and placed dummies to protect his family from a bigger threat. He's also just guessing this, but it is what the kid needed to hear. Mob instantly calms down and falls asleep. Meanwhile, Teru arrives on the scene carrying the Claw member who attacked him. They interrogate the Claw member and learn about Claw's plans, which involve gathering every powerful psychic from around the world. Next, we cut to Claw's headquarters, where we see Toichiro Suzuki, Claw's leader and Sho's father. Suzuki uses the power of Nozomu Hattori, one of the Claw's top 5 members, to transmit a message to the world through TV. You see, Hattori can use his power to hack into every electronic and radio signal. Suzuki informs the world about their existence and his plan for world domination. Now, we see Sho, who, well, isn't happy with his father's plan and wants to kill him. Oh, and also, Ritsu is with him and is part of Sho's plan. Apparently, Sho told everything to Ritsu, and they sent Mob's parents to a hotel by lying about winning the lottery. And yes, it was Sho who burnt Mob's house down. He wanted to trigger Mob so the boy would unleash 100% of his powers. Back at Claw's HQ, Joseph, a Claw member member from overseas plans to overthrow Suzuki. He is basically a government spy who also involves other psychics in his plan. But when he attacks Suzuki, Katsuya Serizawa, Toshiki Minagishi, and Hiroshi Shibata, other Claw members from the top 5, defeat Joseph and his allies. Gosh, too much is happening at once. Slow down, man! Now, the final member of Claw's top 5 reveals himself. He is Ryo Shimazaki, who kidnaps Japan's prime minister while he's giving a speech on live television. Teru tries to stop Ryo, but he ends up getting defeated in an instant. Yeah, these Claw assholes are really strong. The 10th episode begins with Suzuki's first assault in Japan. This jerk lets his army destroy several buildings at once, killing God knows how many people. At the same time, Ritsu and Sho start to fight off Claw, but before they can do anything else, Minagishi arrives at the scene. Minagishi can control plants and is very powerful, so Sho is clearly scared as hell. He's still determined to fight though, but Sho's allies, Otsuki, Higashio, and Fukuda, agree to handle Minagishi, while Sho and Ritsu move further with their plan. Meanwhile, Reigen asks Teru and some other members to distract the enemy by making the cars fly. At the same time, other members are in the sewers trying to break into the building where Suzuki is hiding. While all this is happening, Mob is still having the best sleep of his life. But Hiroshi breaks into Reigen's hiding place and gets this close to capturing Mob and killing Reigen. But Reigen uses a cursed spray to make the enemy unconscious. Seriously, this guy is too damn lucky. Next, we cut to Suzuki, who adores the fact that the entire city has been destroyed. He tells Serizawa and Ryo not to go easy on enemies, like Serizawa did against Joseph. Meanwhile, Hiroshi wakes up from his sleep before Reigen can escape with Mob and Dimple. Hiroshi tries to punch Mob while he is unconscious, but Dimple takes over Mob's body. Thank God. Anyways, it's time to get serious now. Why? Well, because Teru and his team are being confronted by several Claw members. Ryo finds the team of psychics trying to sneak into the building through the sewers, and finally, there's Dimple in Mob's body running away from Hiroshi. As Hiroshi chases Mob, Dimple sees Tsubomi standing amongst the crowd of civilians. Hiroshi is heading towards the girl, so Dimple steps forward and takes a direct punch from the enemy to save Tsubomi. The punch separates Dimple from Mob's body, which flies very far away. Fortunately, Mob's body lands directly in Musashi's hands, who just happened to be there with the rest of the Body Improvement Club members. Hiroshi catches up with Mob's body, but Musashi tries to fight off this enemy to save his friend. Dimple takes over Musashi's body to give the man a chance against the enemy, but Hiroshi is just too damn powerful. But after a long wait, Mob finally wakes up and defeats Hiroshi in an instant. The 11th episode begins with a good sight. Teru and his gang have defeated the Claw members who found them. It was tough, but they did well. Reigen told Teru not to go after the Claw boss, but the boy can't sit idly by while his friends fight the enemy. Next, Sho and Ritsu reach the building where Claw's boss is hiding, but before they can step inside, Ryo arrives on the spot. Ritsu asks Sho to go after his father while he fights the enemy in front of him. Sho runs to fight his father, but he's so charged up that he defeats Nozumu Hattori, the hacker psychic, with a single move. Ritsu is having a tough time fighting Ryo, but the boy is still giving his best to distract the enemy for as long as possible. And while all this is happening, Mob is walking towards the building, but he must defeat Toshiki Minagishi, the plant-controlling psychic. Ritsu is now backed into a corner by Ryo, but guess what? Teru and the former Claw members from the 7th Division arrive to save Mob's brother. They put in collective efforts to beat Ryo. But hey, he isn't called one of the Claw's top 5 for nothing. forget fighting. Ryo doesn't even take the fight seriously. Meanwhile, Mob has some trouble defeating Minegishi, so Matsuo steps in to support the boy. But this clown seems to do more harm than help. He instantly gets defeated by Minegishi and drops the flask that was carrying Mogami. Yeah, the same Mogami who almost trapped Mob in a parallel world just a little bit back. Mogami is now released, and he instantly beats the hell out of Minegishi, but Mob convinces Mogami not to kill Minegishi or anyone else for that matter. Mogami does what Mob says and just leaves the scene. Cut to Sho. The boy finally confronts his father and starts to fight him. Not only does he disagree with his father's world domination plan, but he also wants to prove that he's stronger than Suzuki. But hey, he isn't Mob, so he isn't even able to touch Suzuki. To make matters worse, Serizawa also arrives on the scene carrying his ridiculous white umbrella. Back to Ritsu and Teru. They've finally figured out the strategy to defeat Ryo. Ryo relies on his powers to predict his enemy's moves, so all they have to do is be spontaneous with their attacks. And, well, this strategy works brilliantly, and Ritsu and his gang beat the hell out of Ryo. But instead of facing defeat, Ryo focuses on his power and uses something called Mind's Eye. He now sees through everything and defeats almost everyone in a flash. But this fight ain't over yet, because Mob is finally here. God, I'm so excited to see Mob beat Ryo. Mob walks towards Ryo as he prepares to fight, but the next moment, Reagan arrives at the scene and punches Ryo like a madman. God damn it, Reagan! Ryo didn't see that coming, so he thinks Reagan is a far stronger psychic. On top of that, he can sense Mob's threatening energy, so he flees from the scene. Mob now meets Ritsu and his friends, and then he decides to go against Claw's boss all alone. The 12th episode begins with Mob meeting Serizawa. Serizawa asks Mob to leave, and he even lets the Prime Minister of Japan leave. Okay, he's not such a bad guy after all. Apparently, Serizawa was a miserable and lonely man who was once rescued from loneliness by Suzuki. Since then, Serizawa has been following Suzuki's orders, even though he never wanted to hurt anyone with his powers. That's right, he's just like Mob. But while Mob finds actual friends, Serizawa finds an asshole who just wants to use him. Mob explains this to Serizawa, who accidentally unleashes a massive amount of energy. Mob can absorb Serizawa's energy, but he gives it back to Serizawa and asks the man to become his friend. Believe it or not, that is enough for Serizawa to step down and stop being Suzuki's puppet. Meanwhile, Suzuki has defeated his son quite easily. Suzuki explains to Sho that the experiment to give other people psychic powers failed, and it's actually Suzuki who is lending his own powers to every Claw minion. Once these foot soldiers are defeated, Suzuki takes back all his energy. Yeah, in a way, Suzuki's powers are quite similar to Mob. Mob proves that by sending some of his energy to Sho. Suzuki now charges at Mob with murderous intent. He even kicks Dimple, which sends him flying to the spot where Reagan and the others are waiting. Dimple now tells everyone what's happening inside the building. Mob is still fighting while holding back, so he gets quite a beating from Suzuki. But before he can hurt Mob any further, Reagan arrives at the scene, and he's holding Yusuke's cursed gun. He shoots at Suzuki, which doesn't work. He then tries to throw a surprise punch at the enemy, which also doesn't work. Suzuki is pissed. I mean, really pissed. So he launches an attack on Reagan, but Serizawa arrives right on time to save Mob's mentor. Now, Mob hits 100% rage, and Suzuki attacks Serizawa and Reagan, which makes them fall off the building. But Minegishi and Hattori arrive right on time to save them. Almost everyone has betrayed Suzuki, so he randomly starts attacking everyone in the building. Jeez. Jeez, control yourself, man. Seeing Suzuki is a threat to everyone, Mob floats the entire building into the air, separating him and Suzuki from the others. The final episode of Season 2 continues the intense brawl between Suzuki and Mob. They keep on fighting like demigods, and this is the first time that Mob is fighting someone who is as strong as him, so he kind of enjoys the fight and violence. But then he sees Ritsu on the ground, which reminds him of the time he hurt Ritsu with his powers. No, don't think about all that right now. Just get his ass! Anyway, Mob then decides to hold back and tells Suzuki that he doesn't want to hurt him. Mob says he understands Suzuki's loneliness in this world, but Suzuki doesn't care about what Mob has to say, so he just keeps on attacking. Then, Mob tries to crush Suzuki with several buildings. Gosh, imagine seeing that thing floating in the air. I would be shaken to my core. Everyone thinks Suzuki has died, but nah, this guy's just too powerful. He charges at Mob with even greater power. For a while, Mob falls unconscious, and Suzuki asks him to wake up so he can beat the boy even more. Sadistic bastard! The next moment, Mob uses his powers to twist Suzuki's entire body like he's playing with a toy. This leads to Suzuki's mental breakdown, and he turns into a white humanoid creature. Yeah, that's disturbing. After that, Suzuki's body is unable to hold all of this energy, so he becomes a living bomb that's about to explode. Mob instantly tells Reagan and his friends to run away since he can't protect everyone from the explosion. But he himself doesn't run away. Instead, Mob sits near Suzuki and creates a barrier around them. He refuses to leave Suzuki alone and absorbs all the energy that's being released. Aww, this boy, he's just too kind. At this moment, we get a small flashback where we see Suzuki's wife. She gets frustrated with Suzuki's power obsession and leaves the man. Back to reality, we see a scary-ass explosion that destroys a massive portion of the city. After the dust settles, Reagan, Ritsu, Dimple, and Teru find Mob under the rubble. Later, we see a giant broccoli tree right where the explosion happened. The Psycho Helmet cult members think it has something to do with their founder. Elsewhere, Joseph is talking to Suzuki in jail. Yes, this man survived, all thanks to Mob. Shaw reveals to his father that he is still in touch with his mother, and, well, this pleases Suzuki. Now we are back to Reagan's office, where Mob realizes that he kept seeds of broccoli in his pocket, which were still there while he was fighting Suzuki, and the outburst of energy made the seeds explode. And well, that gave birth to that big-ass broccoli tree in the city. Oh, also, Serizawa has now joined Reagan's office and gets a haircut. You think your days with Suzuki were bad? Wait till Reagan pulls you into his crazy schemes. The first episode of Season 3 begins with Mob thinking about the future aspiration form he got from school. In the form, students have to write what they aspire to become in the future. Everyone has thought about something they want to write, but Mob is still unsure. Also, the fact that Tsubomi has enrolled in the prestigious Citrus Chili High School makes him even more anxious about his future. Don't worry too much, Mob. I don't think anything good can happen at a place that is named Citrus Chili. Mob asks everyone about their future goals, including everyone from the Body Improvement Club. All this talk even makes Dimple wonder what he wanted to do before he became Mob's sidekick. But Mob just can't think of anything. So he just goes to the terrace of his school and keeps staring at the giant broccoli tree. Meisato arrives on the scene, and she asks Mob about the tree. The tree is now being called the Divine Tree, and the Mob Psycho cult is waiting for their founder now more than ever. She's sure that Mob has something to do with it, but Mob only wants to talk about future goals. He's truly single-minded. Next, we see Reagan helping other clients with Mob and Serizawa. This client is a lonely, dirty man living all by himself. Sure, there's indeed an evil spirit hovering over the client's house, but all the unhygienic surroundings, well, that's totally on him. Anywho, meeting a lonely man makes Mob think about his future even more, and he turns in his future aspiration form totally blank. When Mob's teacher says that he once wanted to be a traveler, Mob asks him to put traveler in his form. Yeah, he's so easily influenced by people. Anyway, in Reagan's office, Mob asks about his future with his mentor. Reagan says that Mob's future doesn't have to be a job. A bright future just means living a good life. It's surprising that such wise words are coming out of Reagan's mouth. The second episode begins with a strange man looking at the broccoli tree. Next, we jump to Salt Middle School, where Mob and his friends are assigned the costume duty for their upcoming cultural festival. Mob's friends come up with a lazy idea for the costumes that involves wrapping around a white cloth, but Mob wants to be more creative with the task. Moving on, we see Reagan thinking about redesigning his website. At the same time, Serizawa informs Reagan that he wants to complete his education, so he wishes to attend the night school. As they're talking, the strange man from the opening sequence barges into the office. This man is Haruka Amakusa, and like almost every character in Mob Psycho, he's a spirit hunter. Amakusa is after an evil spirit group called Hyaki. This group wants to resurrect some sort of evil king, and Amakusa wants to stop that from happening. I wonder if this Spirit King is someone we know. Reagan doesn't care about this madness at first, but then Amakusa pays him 1,000,000 yen. So, you know Reagan had to take on this mission and save the world. Anywho, Mob now arrives in the office, and Reagan takes all of them to hunt this great yokai king. But surprisingly, Amakusa leads them to a place where Mob once exercised a spirit. This place has changed, and plant roots are everywhere. Right then, the 4 generals of Hyaki and the yokai king arrive on the spot. Serizawa and Mob easily defeat the 4 generals, and then the yokai king reveals his true form. He vows to kill these lowly humans and take over the world. Nah, what he wants is not important because he gets destroyed by Mob and Serizawa quite easily. Finally, we move on to the Cultural Fest, where Mob has used the Yokai King design for the costume. Sho also arrives at the fest and meets Ritsu, who, well, is dressed as a maid and is serving drinks to guests. That's cute. The third episode begins with Tsubomi hanging out with her friends. Tsubomi suddenly sneezes while talking, and her face gets covered in snot. Eesh, that is not good. Tsubomi covers her face with her hand so her friends don't see the snot, and right then, Mob arrives on the scene and distracts Tsubomi's friends. He then offers tissues to Tsubomi. Aww. Cute. Tsubomi thanks Mob and leaves. On his way back, Mob meets Meizato, who asks him about joining her for a gathering at the Psycho Helmet cult. Then, Homei arrives and asks him to help her find some telepaths. Finally, Emi appears out of nowhere and tells Mob that he's getting popular amongst the girls. Ritsu now joins Mob, and they walk towards home. On their way, Mob sees every girl looking at him, which, well, gets Mob all excited and confident. Later that night, Mob gets a call from Meizato, who tells Mob that there are around 500,000 followers of the Psycho Helmet Club. After the appearance of the Divine Tree, several people claimed to be the founder, and it looks like there's an audition to see who the real founder of the cult is. Man, that's just plain stupid. Anywho, Meizato asks Mob to show up at the audition. Mob sorta thinks about revealing himself as the founder, but right then, Dimple shows up. He tells Mob that they should become the leaders of the Psycho Helmet Club, but Mob asks Dimple to stay out of it. Mob is overconfident, and he wants to be the founder alone. So he shuts Dimple out and refuses to listen to him. It doesn't land well with Dimple, and he leaves without saying anything. The next day, Mob tells Reagan about the cult and that he wants to become their founder. At first, Reagan is about to say no, but seeing that it has more than 500,000 followers, Reagan says Mob should do it. Greedy asshole. Anywho, Mob goes shopping with Tedu because, he has to look good when he reveals himself to the cult. Tedu tells Mob something weird is happening in the city, and some plant roots are showing up at random places. Finally, Mob buys an ugly shirt that literally has monkey faces imprinted on it. Seriously, Mob? I guess your power doesn't come with good fashion sense. But things didn't go as Mob planned, sadly. On the audition night, while Mob is waiting for Meizato's call as she asked him to meet her, someone else reveals himself to be the founder of the Psycho Helmet cult. What's strange is that this person is dressed and looks very similar to Mob. That's weird as hell. And to prove that he is the real founder, this person grows another broccoli tree in front of the followers. The fourth episode begins with Mob talking to Reagan, who tells the boy that plant roots are appearing all over the city. This is affecting the city's infrastructure, and several buildings are beginning to see cracks because of it. Reagan believes that it's the roots of the broccoli tree that are growing beneath the ground. That tree exists because of Mob, so he agrees to help Reagan destroy it. Oh, and it seems like the tree has become a part of the city's culture. There are now broccoli tree candy, broccoli beverages, and whatnot. And yeah, these eatables are made using ingredients from the divine tree. Tedu also consumes one divine tree candy, and right after, he becomes loyal to the Psycho Helmet cult. And we even see the founder standing behind him. Gosh, that's scary. Anyway, Tedu pukes it all out after realizing that it's brainwashing him. After that, he instantly goes to the divine tree where he meets the founder. This jerk tries to brainwash Tedu one more time, but it doesn't work. Tedu continues to fight this Mob lookalike, but this mysterious asshole just keeps on regenerating. Man, I hope Tedu doesn't die. Elsewhere, Minegishi, yes, the plant guy and the former Claw member, also senses that the divine tree is sucking the energy from other plants in the city. Now, we cut back to Tedu, who is still going strong against this enemy. And guess what? This man is none other than Dimple, who has used the divine tree's energy to create this powerful form. He always wanted to be God, and well, this is his chance to become one. Oh man! Alright, back to the evil spirit title for you, Dimple. Meanwhile, Mob and Reagan decide to pull out the divine tree from the ground and throw it into the sea. They also ask Ritsu for help. Ritsu doesn't seem to be affected by the divine tree, but he has been eating the broccoli candy he got from school. He also gives the candy to Mob and Reagan, which they keep to eat later. Right then, Ritsu leads them to a city hall meeting where several psycho cult members are waiting for them. So yes, Ritsu has been brainwashed as well thanks to the candy. Ha ha! I knew you couldn't trust broccoli. Mob and Reagan run away, and they wonder if everyone in the city has been brainwashed. And while walking home, Mob asks Reagan if he's also brainwashed by the divine tree. Well, he ain't wrong, as Reagan starts talking on behalf of the cult. Mob knows that he's probably the only person that's not under the tree's control, so he goes to meet the founder directly. Everyone greets him as the second founder of the cult, and you know what's heartbreaking? Even Tsubomi has become a follower of the cult. The fifth episode begins with Mob walking into the divine tree, where the founder tells Mob that the tree has absorbed its followers' will and has become an entity in itself. So yes, it's all the people's fault. While climbing up, Mob sees Teru tied up by roots. Apparently, he's the only one who rejected all the brainwashing crap. Mob meets the founder, who asks the boy to join him as a god. Well, that ain't happening, you weirdo. Mob asks the founder to free everyone, but this guy says that everyone who is brainwashed is truly happy, so why would he take away that happiness? In fact, he wants to spread this religion throughout the entire world. Right then, Mob releases Teru, who surprisingly had been successfully brainwashed. Mob now knows the founder is Dimple, and Teru asks Mob to stand down. But Mob attacks Dimple anyway, and this leads to a fight between Teru and Mob.
Gotta go through me!
Man, maybe this show has finally gotten serious. Dimple even lends some of the Divine Tree's power to Teru, but Mob defeats him anyway. He sends Teru flying out of the Divine Tree, and then Dimple takes on the fight head on. Dimple even asks Mob if Tsubomi should be the one to calm him down, which, well, pisses off Mob. Dimple says that Tsubomi might actually fall in love with Mob if he becomes the founder, but Mob doesn't like the idea one bit. Up until this point, Dimple has been draining Mob's energy using the Divine Tree, but Mob still manages to slap Dimple like he's a kid, and this forces Dimple to reveal his God form. I'll just say it. God Dimple. God Dimple attacks Mob several times, and the boy takes every hit willingly. But instead of fighting back, Mob says that Dimple is holding back his punches. Mob then asks what Dimple is really thinking, but Dimple gets pissed and unleashes a truly deadly attack on Mob. Dimple is worried that he might have killed Mob, but then he senses an even stronger aura coming out of him. Dimple is scared, which he should be because this boy is a powerhouse. Dimple then moves ahead to land another attack, but he suddenly stops. Why? Because Mob's jacket gets torn, and Dimple sees his ugly-ass monkey shirt. Even Dimple decides to criticize this shirt in the middle of a death battle. The 6th episode begins with Mob thinking about how everyone lied about his shirt. Teru, Ritsu, and even Reagan. Not even a single soul told him that his shirt is an abomination. However, Dimple is honest. He even gets worried about Mob for a second, because no one in their right mind would wear this. You can't trust Dimple not to become evil, but you can always trust him for some honest fashion advice. Moving on. Dimple gets incredibly scared by Mob because the boy goes into silent mode. However, Mob releases all of his energy at once and talks to Dimple as a normal person. Since Dimple is the only one who didn't lie about the shirt, Mob knows he can trust him. He's right. As Dimple listens to Mob when he actually had the chance to kill him, Mob apologizes to Dimple for not ever listening to him. Mob states that Dimple wanted to become a god, and when that dream was within his reach, he asked Mob to join him. This means Dimple always considered Mob as a friend. Well, Mob's words make Dimple let go of his dream. He agrees to help Mob get rid of this tree, but Mob has released most of his energy, so he can't even walk and falls unconscious. So, Dimple carries Mob on his shoulders and starts walking out of the tree. But then, Dimple and Mob see the founder. Wait, wasn't Dimple the founder? I'm so confused right now. It turns out the Divine Tree has absorbed every follower's will and has developed a sense of self. So even though Dimple isn't controlling the tree can now fight for itself. Apparently, the Divine Tree now wants Mob because his limitless power serves as their food. Yeah, everybody's after Mob, except for Tsubomi. Dimple tries to save Mob by fighting the Divine Tree, but shockingly, the Divine Tree can create several copies of the founder at once. So this fight just never ends. At one point, Dimple gets surrounded by the founder from every direction. Mob now finally wakes up and sees Dimple watching over him. Dimple appreciates Mob for being incredibly powerful and not abusing his power. Then he hypnotizes Mob and orders him to walk home. As Mob walks towards his home, and asks every other follower to do the same, Dimple keeps on fighting the divine tree and gets captured by the tree's roots. Damn, Dimple has gotta be done for this time. Mob is back home, and he and Ritsu can't remember anything from last evening. Mob doesn't even remember how he got home. Right then, they see the divine tree floating in the air. Yeah, Dimple has done it. He defeated the tree. Later that night, Mob tries to remember what happened, and then he cries like a baby while thanking Dimple, who is now gone for good, maybe. The 7th episode takes us to the telepathy club, where Tomei realizes she will graduate soon. It means she won't be a part of the club, and she's sad that she didn't make any progress in telepathy or contacting aliens. Well, yeah, you were just wasting your time playing video games. So, Tomei decides to quit the club after accepting that she's a loser. Now, Mameta, Haruto, and Saruta meet Mob and ask him to teach them about telepathy. Mob is strong, but he can't use telepathy. So they ask Ritsu, who suggests reaching out to Daiichi and Kaito. The twin brothers can use telepathy, and they agree to help find another telepath with their powers. Daiichi and Kaito come up with a plan, which involves them using telepathy and expanding its range using Mob's powers. And when they find a powerful telepath, they will use their power to contact aliens. Well, everything goes according to plan, and a telepath does show up in the room, and this person is Takenaka, the same guy who left the telepathy club in the 2nd episode, after which Tomei begged Mob to join the club. Turns out, Takenaka was a telepath from the very beginning, and he quit the club after being disappointed with the other members. Mob asks Takenaka to help them with their plan to contact a UFO. Mob also pulls in Reagan in their plan, and since this guy has nothing better to do, he ends up joining in. They also called Tomei to join them on New Year's Eve, so she can finally fulfill her ambition of contacting aliens through telepaths. The 8th episode begins with the group deciding to climb Mudboat Mountain to use telepathy from the city's highest point. Also, there have been UFO sightings near this mountain around this time of year. On their way up the mountain, Reagan misses an important turn, and to make matters worse, he even crashes the car. They all decide to walk now, and guess what? They get lost in the woods. After a lot of struggle, the group somehow reaches the top of the mountain. There, Takenaka performs the alien summoning ritual. It looks as stupid as it sounds. And yeah, there is no alien summoning ritual. Takenaka read about this in a ritual book, and the author of the book was arrested for fraud 2 years ago. As the day passes, almost every member starts to give up hope, but Mob decides to contact the aliens using their own powers. Mob amplifies the telepathic signal from Takenaka and others and sends a message to space. And a UFO does appear in the sky right after. The aliens step down from the ship and they beam Mob and everyone else into the ship as well. Everyone is excited, thinking about how the ship looks inside, but sadly, it's no different from the telepathy club room. There's a table, a bunch of games, and unhealthy snacks. The aliens chat with humans, and they share their games with each other. Tomei is happy and all, so the aliens send everyone back to the surface. But hey, they forget Mameta on the ship. So what? Mameta spends God knows how many years on the alien planet, but he convinces the aliens to take him to Earth after learning to communicate with them. Honestly, this alien story feels like Mob just completed a side quest. The 9th episode begins with Mob having a dream about Tsubomi, where he sees one of their childhood moments. It's beautiful and all, but the boy has gotta wake up. In school, Mob and everyone learns that Tsubomi is moving next month. Aw, hell no! Mob still hasn't confessed his feelings to Tsubomi, and now he only has 1 month with her. So he goes to ask everyone for advice on how to ask her out. He asks the Body Improvement Club, the Telepathy Club, and even Takenaka, but no one gives him any decent advice. As it turns out, Tsubomi is actually quite popular, and there's literally a queue of boys who want to ask her out. But as expected, she turns down every weird jerk, but she breaks everyone's heart politely. Meanwhile, Mob takes advice from Meisato, who tells him to be respectful and considerate to win a girl's heart. Then, Mob runs into Teru, who tells him to get Tsubomi a gift, maybe some flowers. At this point, Mob is really anxious, but he finds the courage to call Tsubomi after school. He asks to meet her at the park, and hey, she agrees. The next day, Mob buys some flowers and starts to walk towards the park, but something bad happens. Like, really, really bad. On a sidewalk, a kid is about to get hit by a moving car. Mob sees it and pushes the child away from the car, but he gets hit. Then we see Mob bleeding on the street. Ugh, just when something good was about to happen to him. The 10th episode kicks off with Mob's body lying on the floor. It seems like he's dead, but right then, a strong energy is unleashed from his body. Next, we see the entire city getting strong shockwaves, and the source of these shockwaves is none other than Mob. Apparently, the accident caused Mob's infinite form to take over, with the real Mob still unconscious. Mob is walking while holding the flowers, and he's destroying everything in his path. Teru tracks Mob's location and tries to stop him, but Mob doesn't listen and starts fighting. Sure, Teru has become stronger, but he's still no match for Mob in his infinity form. At one point, Teru realizes that the flowers are Mob's weak point, so he must destroy them to bring the real Mob back. But Mob creates a barrier around the flowers before Teru can destroy them. Mob then unleashes so much energy that it not only rips apart Teru's clothes and his wig, but it also almost kills several civilians within range. Mob, and I mean the real Mob, can see all of this happening from inside, but he cannot take back control of his body. Fortunately, Teru saves every civilian by creating several barriers, and then he falls unconscious. Mob now moves ahead to cause even more destruction, and as Tsubomi waits for him in the park, Mob's photo goes viral on the internet. Everyone now knows that it's Mob who's causing all this destruction. Finally, Joseph from the 2nd season brings in Suzuki to stop Mob once and for all. That's right, it's time for the second showdown between these two, baby! The 11th episode kicks off with Ritsu sensing Mob's power going berserk. He walks out of the school council meeting to see what the hell is happening, and he realizes that Mob had an accident. Next, we see Suzuki landing right where Mob is fighting Yusuke and Megumu. That's right, it seems like everyone is being pulled in to fight Mob. Suzuki charges at Mob with full power, but he almost gets killed by the boy. Fortunately, Sho arrives on the scene to save his dad. Yeah, it's the ultimate Mob Psycho reunion. Meanwhile, Ritsu starts running towards Mob, and he sees Teru lying unconscious on the way, and he's naked. At the same time, Sho and Suzuki are fighting Mob together, and they put up a great fight. Infinite Mob beats them in a few minutes, but before he could kill them both, the real Mob tries to take back the driver's seat of his own body. Suzuki thinks about using this situation and absorbing Mob's power, but he knows that it will kill him. At first, he's okay with it, but then he remembers his wife. So he decides to live and flees with Sho. Good decision, my friend. Next, we see the Body Improvement Club arriving at the scene, but even they aren't able to stop their beloved Mob. Fortunately, no one gets killed as Ritsu saves all of them from Mob. Ritsu walks towards Mob to fight off his berserk form, and in that moment, Ritsu awakens 100% of his powers. Ritsu then puts up one hell of a fight, but when he tries to destroy the flowers, Mob creates a massive tornado. At this point, Ritsu now gives up, and the real Mob talks to his infinite self. Basically, it's Mob talking to his own powers. The infinite Mob tells the real Mob that it's his will to meet Tsubomi no matter what happens. And it's the same will that helped his powers to take over. As they're talking, the real Mob starts to slowly fade away. The next time Mob wakes up, it won't be the real Mob. The final episode of Mob Psycho begins with Tsubomi, who's still waiting in the park for Mob. She doesn't want to leave without talking to Mob. And on the other hand, Reagan moves towards the tornado to stop him. Just don't die. Next, we see both Mobs. Man, it feels weird saying that. But yeah, Mob continues to argue with his powers. They both argue over who loved Tsubomi more and which version of Mob she deserves. Now, they are both slowly fading away, so it's only a matter of who fades away first. Meanwhile, Reagan gets close to Mob, and the Berserk Mob says Reagan is a liar and that he was using Mob for his powers. Now, we see the real Mob completely fading away as Reagan screams and moves forward. Wait, is this it? Is it really over? Nah. We can't get rid of Mob that easily. Reagan refuses to give up on Mob, and he just runs towards him like a madman. The injuries don't stop, and he finally reaches his pupil. Mob tries to kill his mentor, but surprisingly, an old friend of Mob takes over Reagan's body. Oh yeah, it's Dimple.
Been a while, hasn't it, Shigeo?
The bastard's still alive! Hell yeah! Dimple tells Mob that he somehow survived and he met Reagan not long ago. But now, Reagan asks Dimple to leave his body since he wants to talk to Mob alone. Reagan now tells Mob that he never had any psychic powers, which surprisingly stops the massive storm. Reagan tells him everything, including the part where he used him for years. But then he asks Mob to accept himself for who he is. Right then, the real Mob and his powers accept each other, and that's what they needed to hear. Mob now walks forward to meet Tsubomi, who's still waiting for him. While Reagan and Dimple talk about their future, Mob returns. And, well, yeah, she rejected him. Mob cries his heart out in front of Reagan and Dimple. Poor guy. Instead of letting it hold him back, Mob moves on with his life. He's doing well at the Body Improvement Club. Ritsu has become the vice president of the student council, and Tomei has even joined Reagan's spirit consultancy. Everyone is here at the agency today. The kids from the Awakening Lab, Sho, and of course, Ritsu and Mob. This reunion is to celebrate Reagan's birthday.
Surprise, Reagan!
Reagan gets all emotional and falls on his cake, which messes up his face. And for the first time ever, we get to see Mob laughing, and that is beautiful. Mob constantly talks to Tsubomi on calls every day, so I guess he's one step away from being with her. Gosh, and I thought this wouldn't be an emotional tale. Anyways, you guys, this is it for Mob Psycho 100. But hey, it's never enough for anime crazies like us. So why not click on another anime recap that you see right here? Yeah? Go ahead. And then, peace!